Hello and welcome back to the Final Fantasy IX level 99 grind combined with the Skyrim level 99 grind. We're still doing both. And we are going to cross 400 hours, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in Final Fantasy IX. Which means that if we had spent this time fully optimally grinding in Final Fantasy VII, we would have once again gotten to level 99. Give or take. I want to say the speedrunner who did it in like 408 hours, so we're not exactly there matching that time, but we're close enough approximation. And we're not even 20% of the way here. It is definitely not ideal. You know what else isn't ideal? That we're wandering in Skyrim. I can't remember if I audited the fight list counter thing or not. I'm going to assume that I did not. So we'll just be where we are. A new box of Kleenex that does not want to give me a Kleenex. It is rude. There we go. Jeez. No, because... Wait, what is this? This is two Kleenex stuck together. No wonder it was not wanting to come out. Well, I've had some terrible, awful, horrible thoughts lately. Thoughts about spending money. And trying to justify it via Patreon. So, we're early enough in the video that somebody just clicked on should hear this. What do you think of a Patreon reward at roughly the $25 level? Let's spitball that it's 25 bucks. That if you support me for 25 bucks a month, then every month you get a custom 3D printed mini. Would that be an incentive? That is the question that I'm posing. If I actually wanted answers to this, I probably ought to make it like a poll as a community post on YouTube and not just put it in a video. But I need something to talk about, so I'm talking about it now. And maybe by the time this episode gets published, I'll have already made that poll as a community post on YouTube. But more likely, I'll have forgotten. Oh, Sneak 93. We're not only gonna cross 400 hours, but we're gonna hit level 41 in Skyrim. No, we're not. That's a lie. Well, I can't even... My brain isn't working. We might hit level 41. What we will hit is another legendary of Sneak. I know how this works. So many leveling mechanics going on at once. because my character level in Skyrim is going up and my sneak level in Skyrim is going up, and the two are somewhat intertwined, but legendary is not the same as level up. It is a more clear indication of progress than my level, though, because level takes exponentially more XP. I don't know if it's exponentially. It takes progressively more XP for each level. Whereas the number of times I have to make a skill legendary is consistent, and the time it takes to make a skill legendary is consistent. Because it's 15 to 100 every time. And that 15 to 100, like, going from 99 to 100 takes longer than 15 to 16, but going from 15 to 100 takes the same amount of time the first time you do it as it does the last time you do it. So legendaries are going to come at regular intervals, unlike level ups, which become progressively further and further apart. I know this is something I've said before, but I have to explain it to myself to remind me how this works. Because I literally just screwed it up, which is what prompted this whole thing. So I need to talk it through for my own sake. And I apologize if you're sick of hearing the explanation for how it works, but there it is. I'm also hopeful this week of being able to film another Patreon video. We'll see if that pans out, though. And I should probably... Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'll possibly discuss something else that may be happening in the near future, but maybe not. Who can say? I mean, I could. But I might not say. That's the whole point. That is what maybe means. It may happen. It may not happen. Twitter is telling me that I have a notification, but I'm not checking that right now. And in fact, I'm not sure why I have Twitter still open. I sent a tweet when I went live, but I normally close Twitter after that. What would be awesome and terrible. Actually, it's not possible. But what would be awesome and terrible is if I could grind Final Fantasy IX and Final Fantasy VII at the same time. That's not possible, though. For one thing, I only have the one console. For another thing, I can't plug the one controller into both of the consoles at the same time. And for the third thing, they have completely different setups. And for the fourth thing, they actually have different control schemes. In Final Fantasy VII, it is the circle button to confirm, and X is cancel. Whereas here in Final Fantasy IX, the X button is confirm and circle is cancel. So if I'm selecting fight on one screen, I'm canceling it on the other, and vice versa. So it don't really work. It could work if I was emulating both of them, maybe. I actually am not sure, because I would need two separate emulators with different control schemes bound to them. To make that work. Also, I don't know that I can... I don't think I can go in the same place on both. Because, like, here it's predominant. I'm like doing circles, but it's predominantly left to right. Because up and down are both screen transitions. And if I remember right, because my brain is dead, and my memory sucks, and migraines are constant, but if I remember right, Final Fantasy VII was predominantly up and down in the grind spot. So yeah. It's like everything is slightly enough different as to make it annoying. Even on the assumption that I could somehow get two games running off the same input in an emulated setup. And even then it's emulation, so it's like... I couldn't do that for this, because this is already on my console. So I'd have to restart. I'd have to restart Final Fantasy IX in the emulator. That seems ludicrous. That seems absurd. It also defeats the purpose of doing this on the console so that I can get all the files on my memory card. Because there would be no files. Well, there would be a file, but it would be an emulator save file on a PC. And that's not remotely the same thing. That's not even slightly the same thing. That's a completely different thing. So basically, this whole idea has been complete nonsense, and no one should have listened to anything I've been saying for the past 5 minutes at least. Just pretend I never said any of it. Unless you want to ask me, why don't you do this in Final Fantasy VII at the same time? In which case, play this back to hear why I can't do it. Why I can't do that. Also, why I can't talk. This is so stupid of me that nothing I do right is correct. I mean, it's to be expected that nothing I do is correct. My brain doesn't work. That's just where we're at. So, the previous query remains, would people be interested? Would that be a thing? I feel like this song is looping. I'm sure it's not, because I can look at it and see that the song has been playing for only half of its runtime. So I think I'm just not listening close enough to pick out the difference in it. Though that does remind me, I did upload episodes with the classical playlist, and I did not get any copyright claims. So we're good to go. We can actually use the classical playlist, and I can justify taking the time to build other genres of playlist. And then we can do the whole thing. The thing being having an actual variety of music between these videos. Wouldn't that be nice? I think so. I think I will go slightly less insane that way. Or at least I will go insane at a slightly slower rate that way. Of course, what would definitely make me not go insane, or help keep me from going insane, if I can phrase things in a way that makes any sort of sense, is to just make you all listen to the game music so that you all go insane while I, like, watch YouTube videos and other stuff. I'm told that there's a show on HBO Max called Tokyo Vice that is very good. I don't know. I haven't seen it. I'm grinding instead of watching the first episode of it. So there you are. And here I am. And we're getting this instead of that. I just realized that today's Monday. It doesn't feel like a Monday. I also didn't do the thing I normally do on Mondays. So that's thrown me off. Normally I go to a friendly local game store and play D&D, and that didn't happen. So... And then yesterday, I normally go to the friendly local game store and play board games, and that didn't happen either. And those are like the 2 days that I normally get to go somewhere that's not a doctor or a store. I didn't call the neurologist. Jesus Christ. This is going to be the saga of when will Circle Master remember to call the neurologist? And the answer is never. The answer is I will never remember to call the neurologist. It's awful. Yeah, and then the song just hard cuts. I think maybe it is a loop. I don't know how I feel about that. I did take 2 songs off the rotation, one for being very loud and one for being very quiet, when they're supposed to be normalized. So we have... I think we have 10 songs instead of 12 that we had before. Whatever. Whatever, I say. Well, we're also going to cross 30,000 XP remaining to the next level. This is all kinds of momentous occasions on this particular stream if you care about arbitrary numbers. Which, why would you be watching this if you didn't care about arbitrary numbers? That's literally all this is. I don't know. What do you say? We take this calming ombre into tonight's table topic. We'll be very calm and chill, and we won't complain about the quality of the question on the table topic. We'll sit back and let it wash over us, and we'll take from it what we can take, and what we can't take, we'll simply let pass without comment, distraction, or negative emotion. That, I think, would be a nice change of pace. And with that in mind, this calming, peaceful, tranquil mindset, let's see what tonight's table topic is. If you were given the option, would you become a vampire? If you were given the option, would you become a vampire? Now, vampires are well-trodden ground in fiction. Much has been said about the curse of vampirism, about its metaphors, about its subtext and social commentary. But let's think about what it means literally. There are lots of different versions of vampires with varying degrees of strengths and drawbacks. So let's take the very basic premises that I think we can all agree, even if they don't appear in every depiction of a vampire, form the common consensus of what it means to be a vampire if that term is presented without any other context. We're gonna strip the vampire down to 3 key points. Number 1, an intolerance of sunlight. A vampire is, by its nature, nocturnal. This is almost always depicted as being destroyed by sunlight, but not always. So I'm going to describe it as an intolerance to sunlight. Because it conveys the same, like, as a vampire, you would have to take basically the same precautions either way. And this is, without a doubt, portrayed as a major drawback. One of the main drawbacks. Hey, not that apple. We are already on the table topic. I'm discussing it right now. If you were given the option, would you become a vampire? We are distilling what it means to be a vampire into 3 key points because we have not been given any context, and vampires are depicted in a wide variety of fashions in fiction. Number 1, intolerance to sunlight. Number 2, vampires drink blood to survive. Not always the blood of specifically living creatures, not always the blood of specifically humans, but they must drink blood to survive. Number 3, given they meet conditions 1 and 2, vampires live forever. This is obviously depicted as the main advantage of being a vampire. It's not necessarily eternal youth, it's not necessarily invulnerability, but it is eternal life. Given that you consume blood, given that you avoid the sun. Now, taking these into consideration, I have to admit that I kind of have an inkling of what this would entail due to the migraines and the accompanying photophobia. I already am intolerant of the sun. Did I mark this fight? I don't know. I'll just keep going. You know what? I won't. I'll mark the fight. It is definitely limiting. And the greater the intolerance, the greater the limit. I already rarely, I don't want to say rarely, I already seldom leave the house. I spend most of my time at home, and I spend nearly all of that time at home away from the sun, indoors. I have blackout curtains up in my bedroom to keep out as much sunlight as possible. And I even avoid artificial light when given the option. And when I must have artificial light, I do my best to minimize it. And let me tell you, the main disadvantage of this is in transportation. I am reliant on others to get around, to engage in otherwise normal activity. But as I am awake during daylight hours, I can still interact with people on the internet. I can still interact with people on the occasions that I do leave the house. And generally, I wouldn't say that it's a great social situation to be so isolated, but it is not total isolation. Someone who works exclusively a night shift and must sleep during the day so that they can work all night can tell you that being nocturnal is a completely different animal to simply being intolerant of the sun. And if one is forced to actually be nocturnal, if one takes this as sleeping during the day and being active at night, then I think vampirism would have more of a drawback in terms of social interaction, in terms of associating with other people, and having emotional needs met. And that would be the main concern, I think. Because going to number 2, drinking blood. Access to animal blood is relatively simple. In this day and age of meat preparation, butchery, and services available, you can go out and buy animal blood. And you can drink it. Presumably, you would be a vampire if you're just drinking it straight, but obviously, there are other uses for animal blood in preparation of different. Blood sausage comes immediately to mind and is probably the stereotype, but other options would include chum for fishing. So there are uses for animal blood, and because there are uses for it, a market has developed around it, and because a market has developed around it, it is available and accessible. So point 2, I think, is a non-issue. Your grocery bill is being spent somewhere else. But other than that, you are consuming in the same general manner. Instead of cracking open a pint of beer, you're cracking open a pint of blood. Instead of buying steaks from the butcher, you're buying said pints of blood from the butcher. So, given modern society, point two is trivial. A lot of emphasis is placed on the existential angst of point three. That you will live to watch others die. That is true of everyone. To a lesser degree, obviously. But for the most part, you're going to live long enough to see your parents die. And that's rough. That is. The probably the only worse thing than that is living to see your children die. One could argue that you could see that happen as a vampire. But you could see that happen as a person. I think the greater fear of endless life is not the loss of loved ones so much as the loss of self. As you grow older, as your life extends longer, your memories of the past fade. You fill in gaps with emotional resonance rather than clear recollection. And when the emotional resonance fades, sometimes the items fade completely. And sometimes you simply invent a fiction to fill that gap. And this is another thing that I feel particularly due to the cognitive impairment that I go through. I struggle to remember things. I especially struggle to even form strong memories of things that have happened since the migraine started, because it has impaired my ability to form memories ever since. I had a clear progression of my life's events and especially recent health issues before the migraines. Those of you familiar with Final Fantasy VII grind can remember perhaps the shoulder issues that I was going through for the last roughly a year of it, nearly a year. But through those times, I was well aware of when the injury occurred, what steps I took, how long I spent on those steps, etc., going up to the surgery and even past that to the rehab. I had very clear, strong memories of that entire process. I do not have clear, strong memories of that process with the migraines. There are things that happened and conversations that I've had with people that they bring up that I have no memory of happening because my brain can't form the memories properly and can't recall the memories clearly. And if you are a vampire and you live 1,000 years, you're not going to remember 1,000 years worth of memories. You'll remember key points. You'll probably still remember important events of your childhood, but most of that will be a blur. You'll have a sort of slideshow view of key moments of your life, but even that will fade as time continues to march on. Something important might happen to you at age 100 that you think you'll remember your whole life. But after another 100 years later, you're not going to remember that nearly as well. And after another 500 years, you may not remember it at all. There's a solo RPG called 1,000-Year-Old Vampires that deals with this theme of forgetting. But to sum it up, just imagine you're a vampire and you keep journals to avoid the forgetting that will inevitably happen. With the knowledge that at least if you do forget, you can read the journals and recall. And just imagine, at 1,000 years old, you pick up a journal that you wrote in when you were 100 years old, and you recognize none of it. You remember none of it. Your handwriting might not even be the same anymore. You may as well be reading about a completely different person. You will have changed and forgotten so much that you will have lost your previous self. And you will have this happen to you innumerable times as your life continues and continues and continues and continues. So if you sit and say, I want to live forever, there are some who would say that living forever is a curse. But the real curse is that you won't live forever. Because your sense of self, your identity, will not survive the passage of time, even if your consciousness does. That is the existential argument against being a vampire. Having said all this, having gone over these points of social isolation and existential dread and doubt and forgetting, I would become a vampire for one very simple reason. I do not want to die. And if the day ever comes, 1,000 years from now, where I change my mind and I do want to die, and I'm a vampire, I simply need to embrace the morning sun. So if given the option, would I become a vampire? Absolutely. And with that done, thank you, Legema, for tuning in, or Legema, if I'm going to mispronounce your name, and thank you for the follow. You caught me at a time where I was trying to be very serious and thoughtful, and try not to belittle the table topic of the night. Why do I not want to die? Well, aside from the very visceral human survival instinct, if the party's getting whack, then it's the party that needs to change, not me. There is a Calvin and Hobbes comic that I read years and ever ago because that's when it was around. And I forget the context of it, but basically Calvin's had a horrible day and he's mad at everything. And it's like everything's gone wrong for him on this day. And he's annoyed and frustrated and angry. And he says, I wish I was dead. Wait a minute, no I don't. I wish everyone else was dead. And that, I think, is the fundamental thing of it, is that you don't really want to die. You want everyone else to die. At least in the context of this party is whack. That's, like... So, yeah. Well, not that apple. You gotta remember, like, I get the sentiment of wanting to take care of your future generations. One thing I didn't touch on that I maybe should have, but I didn't want to get too real with it. If you live forever, you need to support yourself forever. You need money forever. And yeah, maybe you can work and save up a forever amount of money eventually, or just get lucky and come into that money through opportunism. But all of vampire fiction that depicts vampires as wealthy skips over the period of them needing to become wealthy. And being old does not automatically mean that you are wealthy. Hey, all you need is a coffin, right? Now I'm picturing. I'm sorry, I said that, and I'm picturing like a vampire squatter. So, like, imagine there's a mausoleum or something, and a vampire just sneaks in and takes one of the coffins and makes himself at home inside the mausoleum, and you know, over the course of a night or two, he sneaks in his personal stuff. He gets a laptop and power cable into the mausoleum, so he's in his coffin, like stealing Wi-Fi from the building, just like squatting. No, I'm just saying, like, if you think about, oh, your neighbor's Wi-Fi that doesn't have the password on it, and you start like using their internet, and you're stealing their connection, and you just like translate that over to a vampire who's cutting corners. It was meant for comedic effect. Very true. As I often like to say, just because it isn't funny doesn't mean it's not a joke. I also seem to have a drinking problem because I immediately spilled on myself when I went to take a drink. So you weren't here to hear the question, not that apple. Or Legema. Legema. I'm sorry. I'm going to continue to not know how to pronounce it. Hey, somebody finally redeemed that. I'm sorry that the sound was not great. That was probably completely drowned out by the music, and I apologize. I need to make some adjustments. But yeah, you weren't here when I asked this question to the ether. Mostly to the YouTube audience, if there is one. Uh, but how would you feel about a Patreon reward tier? And we'll spitball that it's at the $25 level. So it'd be $25 a month. And each month you get a custom 3D printed mini, like figurine. Would that be enticing? Or would that be too expensive? Are we going to hit level 41 and sneak 100 at the same time? That sure would be nice. You know what else would be nice? If I remembered to hit the button. Well, yeah, the idea is that it would be different every month. So, no backsies. Getting characters from the game I'm currently playing would either depend on the ability to find 3D files for those characters or the ability to make 3D files for those characters, and I don't know anything about 3D modeling myself. So it'd mostly be the ability to find. Although there are some websites that let you custom design miniatures from uh not from templates necessarily, but from a catalog of pieces and options, and then get the files from those get the files to 3D print those minis. So that's always an option. Well, yeah, you just put it in an appropriately small box, wrap it with bubble wrap or whatever. Like, there are companies like Hero Forge that will make and ship miniatures to people, and they come individually. So shipping exists. And the reason that I'm spitballing $25 level just depends on shipping cost, I have done basically no research into how much shipping a miniature would actually cost. But like probably high side estimate of the cost of the mini itself would be like $8 for the file and then $2 worth of resin. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it depends on what the shipping is, but like it would be something to incentivize a higher or any support on Patreon. It is patreon.com/circlemaster, of course. But yeah, the idea is that it would need to cover the mini itself and the shipping and have some kind of margin for me cuz that's the whole point. It is also an attempt to justify getting myself a 3D printer when I really shouldn't because I really shouldn't be spending that much money on one. But hey, I make bad decisions, like deciding to grind to level 99 in the starting area of Final Fantasy games that take way too long and way longer than Final Fantasy VII did. Like 5 times as long. But here we are. And have a good night. Thanks for tuning in and putting up with my monologuing about vampires. Unfortunately, that expended most of my brain power, so I'm not going to make good conversation for the rest of the stream. I apologize. I'm only an hour in, and I've blown my intellectual load, at least for tonight. Sneak 100, level up. Go into health again. Okay, so we are level 42. I never understand how the UI works in Skyrim. But we are now at 5 out of 26. We are just less than 20% of the way there. Just like we're less than 20% of the way there in Final Fantasy IX. If only Final Fantasy IX would finish at the same time as Skyrim, wouldn't that be amazing? It would literally be amazing. It would literally be cheating. Like if I say, oh look, we just happened to finish Final Fantasy IX at the same time as Skyrim, then yeah, you know I cheated. But because I'm not doing that, you know I'm not cheating. Right? That's how that works. If that's how it works, then why am I... You know, the whole point of the stream and the videos is to show, look, I'm doing it legit. There ain't no cheating. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. We're still good. There's the rock. Okay, let's settle in. Cool. That's the downside of accidentally hitting the mouse. I was reaching for my drink. That's what I was doing. Having a little drinky drink. I feel like I have something going on tomorrow, but I don't. Like that feeling is a lie. I love the false sense of rapid progress you have right after making a skill legendary. When in fact it's gonna be, you know, this about 6 hours before it's legendary again. Was that my imagination, or was there an extra message there? I can't have maxed out my inventory already, right? That would be ludicrous. Like, that would require a long sustaining imbalance of drop rate. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be for potions. I'm going to check my inventory real quick. Y'all can't stop me. I do what I please. No, I am not remotely inventory capped. So, yeah, it was purely my imagination, and I have once again made a fool of myself. Such is my lot. Neither the first nor the last time. You know, on the status menu there, or I guess the menu screen in general, they got those jewel things with numbers on the right side of the character panels. I have absolutely no memory of what those mean. And I'm suddenly worried that I'm doing something very, very wrong. That, like, if only I had spent those, or assigned them, or something, this would be going so much faster. But, like, this 51 out of 51. Like, protect girls. What does that mean? Flee Gill. What does that mean? That's it. I can run away and I can protect girls. There are no girls in the party. That's it. I have flee. And then card. I don't know what this means at all. But yeah. I don't remember any of that. Hey, Malik. No, I was asking about the gem things. Like, he's got 51 out of 51 something on the screen. It's not anything that I know what it means. I'm sure at one point I knew, but that point has passed. There, it's next to his HP and level. 51 out of 51. Oh, we got the new time. It's purple. Look at that. Or perhaps pink. I think it's purple. But then I am looking at it on a very darkened screen. Okay. Ability pool. I think magenta is in the purple family of colors. I'm not a color theorist. I am only very technically what you might call an artist. In that I have put paint on things. So Malik, out of curiosity, tonight's table topic was, if you were given the option, would you become a vampire? What say you to this table topic? You answer the table topic while I blow my nose. Or don't answer the table topic, I guess. Just make everybody suffer in silence while I blow my nose off mic. I know I'm suffering. But then again, I'm not silent about it, so is that really the same? What was the table? I thought I said it. If given the option, would you become a vampire? Very political of you. This is geek pop. This is not too real pop. I would have preferred if you said bat. Because then we can have a spirited conversation of, is Batman secretly a vampire, and that's why Bruce Wayne refuses to give up the mask. It's not because he's driven to save Gotham. but it's also not because he's a horribly emo person who can't stand his real self. It's vampire bats are things. Like, and maybe the Green Lantern was right, but even more interestingly, the Green Lantern power, their power rings, whatever, can do anything as long as their willpower and imagination can conjure it up. So, could the Green Lantern have unintentionally turned Batman into a vampire by simply assuming that he was one? Could he make himself correct post hoc with the lantern ring power? No, but just think about it. The Green Lantern goes up to Batman. So you're a vampire, right? And Batman's like, no, I'm not. It's like, no, but you have to be. You like, look at you. You're definitely a vampire. And Bruce Wayne says, no, I'm not a vampire. And Green Lantern, no, dude, I'm looking at you. You're a vampire. And bam, Lantern, like, will, imagination, determination, and Batman becomes a vampire. I don't know how color. I don't know much of anything about Green Lantern mythology. I don't know from color lantern rings. But you're supposed, like, my vague understanding of lantern rings is that, like, willpower and imagination, and they can do anything. Well, no, that you're thinking of pink kryptonite. Yeah, things being color coded is super lazy, at least in terms of comics. Like in real life, color coding different items is extremely important, but in comics, it's lazy writing. So what you're saying is that Christian Bale Batman plus Pink Lantern Ring equals Adam West Batman. That's what I'm hearing. Well, it's a series of words. Let's not get into the phrase virtuous lust. Like, let's just set that to one side and put a blanket over it and never acknowledge it again. Kind of like what they do with the fact that originally Batman Super was into killing people. And, like, had a gun. Hey, Judgment Wings. We hit level 42 in Skyrim. We crossed the 400-hour mark in Final Fantasy IX. And I think we have already crossed the 30,000 XP to go. Oh yeah, we're almost to 27,000 XP to go. So lots of arbitrary number milestones. I don't know who Vivi is, but I'm assuming that it's one of the two dead characters that are dead so that they don't steal XP. Because XP is split in this game. I'm assuming that Vivi is the one dressed as a black mage. I'm gonna forget that soon, and I will be glad for it, because I neither care to remember nor want to remember. Right, I was gonna look up the bang command to do that, because that's what Nightbot is doing, I think. But then I never did. Much like I never fixed the sound alerts. It seems like it's taking longer to load into the overworld. Such as it is. And for some reason, just now, I had a terrible feeling that I wasn't recording. Even though I am, I can see it. For some reason, I just suddenly thought that it wasn't recording for some reason. I don't know. It's getting late, and I'm clearly becoming less able to articulate my thoughts. Yet I'm still using words like articulate. I probably should have followed that up with something, but my brain just shut off. Like, that didn't feel like the end of a train of thought, but boy, did that train of thought just come to a crashing halt. It's kind of like those images of the trolley problem. Only instead of pulling the lever to switch the track, pulling the lever makes the train explode, killing everybody in a hail of shrapnel. Are we gonna hit 43 before my brain shuts down? That would be nice. Not as meaningful a number as 42, but a higher number than 42, which is always the direction we want to go in. We want number to go up. Number go up, brain go happy. Number go down, brain go sad. And that's why people play idle incremental games. I would make a comment about next stream getting to a certain fight count number. But I haven't reconciled the fight counter in a while, and we may not actually get there. We may skip over it due to my own personal negligence in hitting the button. So I can't make any promises about next stream we'll hit such and so when it comes to the fight's remaining tally. Well, we did hit level 43. Let's get more health, why not? And frankly, I think that's as good a place to end the stream as any other. We gained 2 levels in Skyrim. We gained a purple, pink, magenta, something color on our clock in Final Fantasy IX. And we're some 26,000 XP away from level 62. What are we at? Yeah, 26 and change. Closer to 26 than 27. I was right enough. You can't tell me I'm wrong. Well, you can. I just will be unhappy. Do I need to buy more potions? You know what? I'm gonna buy more potions since I'm already here. And I forgot to heal myself. Alright, so that will do it. What's the secret word of today? We're gonna say the secret word is invitation. If you're watching this on YouTube, post invitation in the comments so I know that I needed to sneeze, but also that I know that you made it to the end of the video. We'll save in Skyrim, because that's also important. And we can debate about what color the timer is. So thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, take care.